All right, we are on the home stretch of this pair of leggings. We're going to do the 3 hems, the 2 legs and the waistband, hemming it up, and then we'll be all finished. For hemming, my 3 tools are my little clippers, 1 pin. Sometimes you need more than one, but I like to have things clear as possible. And then I have this little screwdriver, and I'll show you what I use that for. So I usually start with the legs first. It doesn't matter at all. And both of the leg seams, for both legs, I should say, I turn both of them to the left. And that just keeps them both going in the right direction. I fold that over about 1/4 of an inch, and I just stick a pin in there. And the one thing with the hemmer that is a little bit awkward at first getting used to is that you have to hem from the top side. So you can't see for sure how far you have this turned over. But trust me, after you've done it a few times, it'll just become second nature. You can kind of feel with your finger, you'll become familiar with how much of a hem you have turned over just by feeling it. And also, when you put the fabric under the presser foot, I don't know if you can see it very well on here, but you can see the line of the edge underneath here. So you can kind of tell how far under it's turned. So I always start just this way of the leg seam, and just kind of feel under here where that seam is, and I can see it on here. And we're just kind of keep going, and you can take that pin out. I usually do, just because it's kind of annoying as it's going around the circle there. Keep it turned under. Now I clip the threads before I get back to it because that just makes it more neat. So I just clip those. Now going over the seam allowance, generally speaking, if you're gonna have a skip, a lot of times that's where it happens. And to avoid that, I'll get right up to it, and then I'll just grab it behind here, kind of right along what I've sewn before already, and I'll just kind of pull it gently through so it doesn't stop and get stuck before that seam. And then I just go over about 1 inch. And you want the needles to be all the way kind of at the top of their rise. Raise the presser foot, and you'll take this, whatever you have that works for this. It's just got to be something narrow. And I come behind and I pull the threads toward me and clip them. What you want to do is get, right now you have 2 threads on top of the seam and 1 on the bottom. What you want is to get all 3 threads on the bottom side of that seam. And this is like a magical little trick to make that happen. So you clip all of those, and then you're going to open this up, and you're just going to loosen that bottom thread so that you can grab this, and if you give it a little bit of a quick tug towards the back of the machine, voila, all of your threads are on the back and there's nothing on the front. So you're going to clip the 1 thread that's still attached, and I like to tie these off. And the easiest way, it seems to me, is to take, there's the 1 thread that you just cut, and then grab one of the other ones to hold on with that, and then I just tie a knot. And you just want to try to snug the knot right down along the stitching. I hope you can see that. Black was not the best choice of color for me to be showing you this. And I just tie it twice. It's not the end of the world if it comes apart. That seam should not, even if you don't do this, the seam should not unravel. And then I clip it just kind of right down next to the knot. And there you go. You have a nice, professional looking, stretchy hem. And now whenever, every single time I sew a hem, I always look for skips. And it helps if you hold it right under the line, the light, I'm sorry. And if there is a skip, it's going to be pretty obvious because there will be kind of a big gap in the seam. But like I said, the most common place for it to happen is right when you've gone over that seam. So you really want to check there. And I sometimes run my finger over it because if it does skip a stitch, there will be kind of a loop of thread that did not catch. So you'll be able to see that. But this one looks like it's okay. So I already did the other leg. So now I'm going to do the waist seam. So I always start at about the middle back, and you want to make sure your seam allowance is to the correct side, and you're just going to fold it over right along the edge of the elastic. And I generally start sewing back here a little ways. And on my machine, when I put the presser foot down, there's an 1/8 inch of fabric that I can see along over here. And that just seems to be a good distance to do it. You just want to get those edges down. So you do have to stretch this because you can see that the elastic was a little bit smaller than the waist. So you are going to want to stretch it. But if you only pull it from the front, I guarantee you'll get skip stitches. This machine is so picky. So I always grab the back and I pull it so it's just, so you're not pulling force this way. It's kind of, you have an equal force both to the front and the back. And you'll get used to that. You just want it to be, and keep it folded over so that top, you can feel the top of the elastic is right along this edge. Make sure the seam is turned the correct way. It should be at this point in the front, it should be pointing away from you. Slowly go over that. As we're coming up to this, I'm going to clip those threads just because it's easier to do it now than it is to do it after you finish the seam. I got a little bit too close here. Okay, so now I'm just going to go over this, and I'll generally just go over probably to about another inch past the seam. And you can see, because of the two nifty little lines that they have on the presser foot here, those line right up with the two lines that you've already sewn. So it makes it really easy to know that you're lined up, and so you're not going all cattywampus off the seam there. Again, you get the needles up to the highest point, lift the presser foot, just pull those threads to you and clip them. Loosen up that bottom thread and just grab it and pull it towards the back. I just think that's so cool. So I grab two of the threads and just tie a square knot. And try not to pull it too tight. And there we go. So now on the inside, You can see your zigzag stitch from sewing that elastic on there, and then the hemming stitch is on the inside. So I'm going to go ahead and just check this for any skips. Again, you want to really check carefully over the seams. But sometimes this machine just randomly skips a stitch just in the middle of nowhere. And on this, I would just, wherever the skip is, I would just do about a 3-inch patch just right over the top of it. I would not take it out and redo the whole thing. So you can see your size tag is in there. You've got a nice, neat, professional hem. So there you are.